Hey YouTube, welcome to episode 37 of our Feed the Beast Continuum quick tips and tricks. So this time through, we're going to take a look at some of this Flux network shit, and it's pretty damn cool. Right now I've got the basic stuff to kind of get you going here. There is a few more things that I didn't really pick up yet, but in order to get some serious transfer going across, specifically for the fusion and plasma generator stuff that I'm going to be working on next, there's some, I guess, some power problems that we're going to have here. So this Flux network stuff is kind of the thing that's going to get rid of that limitation. So let's take a look at what it costs to build this stuff. Let's start with this Flux Controller first. You can see here that this Flux Controller actually, it's missing a texture, so I don't know if it's just mine. I don't have an updated version of the mod pack because I just don't. So, but let's take a look here. Let's take a look at what it costs to make this thing. These aren't cheap. They are not cheap at all. Flux is relatively easy to come across. If you're mining, it should be pretty abundant. What's expensive here is these friggin' Flux Cores, and you can see iridium alloy plate, which these seem like they're relatively easy to pick up. If you missed it, the last episode, episode 36, actually goes over how to pick iridium up relatively easy using UU matter. So check that out if you haven't. But really, what becomes difficult with the iridium itself is getting the TNT together to get the alloy ingot smashed together. So this isn't a complicated recipe. Once you've got the stuff built, you're looking at the TNT. That's really what's going to kill you here. And what I've been doing to kind of get around that, let's go take a look at the ye old mob spawner. I clean this out every once in a while. You can see there's some gunpowder coming in here, but sulfur, for these in a square, you can also come up with gunpowder, so that's there for you. What I've done is stuffed a nitro creeper into the mob duplicator, and I've been running it that way. It works relatively well. Come up with enough gunpowder in a session just sitting here to pretty much take care of that. I didn't really go out and try and demolish creepers or anything like that. But keep in mind, you're going to need a whole shit pot of gunpowder to run through this implosion compressor. You can see here I got a little stockpile going, but you're going to need a whole shit ton of it. So let's take a look at what else this constitutes. So you've got your flux cores, but then you've got these flux blocks. And here's where it gets expensive. So it's 4 flux cores per block. You need 5 blocks. You need 6. We'll get you the one for your plug, and then an additional 8 flux cores for your plug and point. Fortunately, the point here is just the block of redstone. So they really aren't all that cheap. But let's go over quickly one more thing here. You've got a couple options for plutonium. Now, I've been picking up uranium and running it through the reactor up on the roof. And there's a couple ways you can do that. If you've got an abundance of cyanite, you can go ahead and make this stuff this way. I didn't do that. What I did is I've been manufacturing cryothium. Gelid cryothium. So it's only 2 per at the cost of this. Now, you might be asking, you know, that shit's pretty expensive, isn't it? Well, I had enough levels, liquid XP, saved up to make it worthwhile. I built myself a glacial precipitator and then upgraded it to start making snowballs. What I did here is pumping snowballs into the fluid transposer, and then pumping in liquid EXP from the top to get blizz powder. So once I had the blizz powder, I threw the cryothium, what the hell is it called? Is it cryothium dust? Yep, cryothium dust threw this shit into magma crucible and pumped it out into a tank and did it that way. So you've got a couple options in order to get that plutonium. So you can spend the 8 or you can spend the 2 with the cryothium. I didn't have enough to make it work, so I had to do it the hard way. It did probably take me a few hours to get that taken care of. So if you're going to do it through the cryothium dust method, upgrade your machines here. What you want to do for that is, these are tier based. You have to start with hardened and then go up. So I've got a couple of these machines completely upgraded to a resonant flavor, but you do need all of them. So hardened, reinforced, then signal them to get your resonant. You just put those into the machine. You can see the reason I did that is because I stuffed in 4 auxiliary reception coils here, and it just makes this thing fly. Like it goes ridiculously fast. So did that on both machines. It was totally worth it. So seems like you need that more often than you should, that magma crucible and fluid transposer. So if you upgrade those, it's worth it. You'll be happy, I promise. So lastly, let's look at we've got this Flux Configurator. I haven't touched this yet. Maybe we'll take a look at that in one of the next episodes, but it's there. I didn't want to build any more of these Flux Cores because I don't see a use for it yet. That doesn't mean it won't happen in the very near future, but it's possible. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm not going to touch it. It's not pertinent to what we're doing at the moment. So let's take a look at how these plugs and points are set up. First off, let's go take a look at the roof here. We're going to go check out our power cells and how I've got that hooked in. Now the setup I've got up here isn't all that complicated. You can see all my outputs are in the front of these. I just stacked them together for the extra storage there. In the back you can see this is kind of a mess. All the inputs, this is completely unnecessary. I was just kind of bored and doing whatever. So here is our flux plug. This is plugged into power cell. Right now I don't have an output set here. Otherwise it would pump energy out into this plug. Now the cool thing about this is there is a transfer limit. Right now I've got the transfer limit shut off. So once you've got a flux network going here, you're going to have to do a little bit of configuration stuff. I did this down on the controller. I don't think it makes a difference if you create a network down there or not. But when you create a network, it should come up with some stuff here. I've already done this, gone through and named the network. You can set the access settings to private or restricted or public. I think restricted goes to your friends if you've done that. Since I'm playing by myself, this doesn't matter. The conversion type here, you can shut that off. I don't know why you would want to do that. Right now, I use Redstone Flux for everything. That's just what I'm used to, I guess. You can do whatever the hell you want. AE2 is actually useful if you kind of use some of that stuff, but I run with RF, sorry, because it runs with everything. So that's where this is at. Otherwise, if you don't need it, I've already got this network set up. Some of the cool things you can kind of do with this, since this is the roof flux plug, I've named it that, so you can go ahead and name it. When it go to the connections, you can see that the roof flux plug, this is what it's called, and that's where it's at. So you've got some stuff here. Input 0 RF per tick, so we're not pumping anything out to it. Transfer limit is none, and priority is 0. I assume some of the priority stuff you can send stuff first, depending on what your needs are. I think once that fusion generator stuff is up and running, we might have to play with this a little bit. So along with these other tabs, we can go through this stuff quick. You're going to see some statistic here. So there's 1 plug, 1 point, 0 storages. I don't think that's even in here. And then your controller. You can see the whole system itself. There's 0 RF in, 0 RF out. There's nothing in storage, and there's no transfer. So there's no network buffer here either. So not a huge deal. Here's your allowed players. If you wanted to actually, whitelist players to use your network, this is where it's at. There's some debug tools here. If for some reason it stops, apparently you can go through it, just click these, and it just fixes stuff. which is great. And I don't want to edit my network, but if you had to, this is where this is at. So that's kind of the basics. But biggest thing to worry about with these plugs, so the plug will put stuff into the network. So you hang this off of your power cells there. I changed this to no limit. You can specify whatever you'd like here, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, whatever you want to put in. So there's that. Let's go take a look at, I got it hooked to the void ore miner right now. And we're going to go downstairs and take a quick look at that. Oh, we got a little bit of time here. So I've got this hooked right off the back of the controller, just like you would with any of the other power stuff. This really, it doesn't tell you a whole lot other than what it's connected to. So it says a controller tier 3. There's no output. Just remember that your points, that's your output. Your network output is always a point. So that's pretty much what we're looking at. I don't have this turned on. I do have some juice in there. In those power cells, I've been kind of waiting to get that power back up, but that's kind of where that's at. So let's take a look at this thing one more time. You're going to notice that on these controllers, there's some different options here. And once we actually take a look at this, if you click home, you should see this. So this is the main network that's assigned to this controller. It's called Flux Controller Priority, and I've got no transfer limit set, period. The one thing that is kind of cool about this is there's wireless charging. So what does that do? Well, you can see here that right now my 19.75 million RF out of my 25 million, it's not doing anything. But it can send 12.5K, it can receive 50K RF per tick. Let's take a look at this. Let's turn it on. So right now it's enabled. And maybe this isn't going to work the way I would like it to. Of course not. And the reason for that is because there's no power going into it. So let's go check this out quick. You kind of have to keep an eye on this. Like, I've got this shut off, so it's not constantly running shit down to the void ore miner. Let's turn this on though. So output, and now let's check it. So we've got our wireless charging turned on, and I'm not sure what the range is to this. It might be really stupid, but I've gone way outside the base, and this damn thing, it just keeps charging. Let's go run over here just to see. Whoop this spider's ass. Yeah. He's gonna come back. Of course he's gonna come back, bitch. So yeah, even out here this was charged. Let's see if we can burn a little more RF up here. Yep, then it just keeps everything charged. So one of the great things about that, especially with a base the size of mine, it's kind of a big span there. But you'd really have to manage your power shit if you're going to do it this way with this wireless charging stuff. Just because... Yeah, so here it actually shows you your input into the system, so it's plus 2.4K RF, and our output is 1.2, so it's about half, and I'm thinking that's probably the output at 1.2K RF per tick is probably the void ore miner. That's just what it's doing. So that's the way that looks. I'm going to shut this off for now just because I don't want it on. And let's go take a look at one more thing really quick. So here's your wireless charging. This is kind of what is going on. So if you're nearby, you can charge it. You can set this stuff on. So give it a click. It'll do your hotbar. This is your inventory. Your baubles are here. and your armor inventory is here. So jetpack and stuff, that'll all charge. Cool thing is I've got that, excuse me, this capacitor. It'll charge all that stuff, and it works pretty damn well. But so keep that in mind if you got a bunch of RF based equipment that needs charging. Wireless charging will do it. But again, you kind of have to watch what you've got going on. So, all right, well that's a bit it for Flux networks. Just keep in mind that there's no transfer limits here. So we're going to be hooking this bad boy up to another set of points and plugs once I get that fusion reactor set up. But I got a little bit of a wait. I got a couple machines built. As you can see, my base has expanded a little bit here again. It took a couple hours to get all this put together. There's another set of machines. I'll kind of go over here, but had to expand in order to make that happen. So don't crowd yourself in. Get your base expanded, chunk load it, make it work, do your thing. So that's it for this episode. Till next time.